Hi, everybody. Welcome to your second day of Accelerated English. It's the end of the first week. I hope that your classes went all right. I know that there were quite a bit of technical difficulties this week I know I experienced loads of them. I talked to lots of students that had problems. Teachers, our poor IT guy, Mr. Trailer, is just absolutely slammed. So I really hope that your week went smoothly. I know there was some problems on Tuesday about viewing the video. I've made some changes in my settings on YouTube. I originally wanted it to be unlisted, so only people who had the link to the video could view it. But it just seems like that's a confusion that was not worth it, so I've made the videos public. So I know that there are some kids that have subscribed to this YouTube channel, and then as soon as a video uploads, it'll get in your subscription feed. So you're more than welcome to do that now that I've made the videos public. So today we are actually going to do a mini lesson, more of a review. It's been 4 weeks since I've seen you. We just started the book when we left school 4 weeks ago. So I'd like to get a bit of an update, see where you guys are, and reflect on how Caden has developed as a character. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So share screen. Share. All right, this. All right, so on Tuesday, I had written all of the questions that you needed to answer for your weekly work. I put them in the form itself. For today's lesson, I'm not providing those questions for you. The questions are going to be embedded here in the slides. So as you're watching, you can just pause and go and do the work on your weekly work form and then come back to the video, or you can just watch the video all the way through and do the work at the end. Does not matter to me. All right, so like I talked about in my very first video, I'm trying to keep things as normal as possible, which includes like my normal slideshow. So this is your warm-up for the day. It's a very easy warm-up, but so on your weekly work form, just respond to this on a scale of 1 to 5. How are you doing? 1 means that you feel awful and terrible. 5 would mean that you're living your best life. So give me some sort of a number and then explain your answer. Please don't just give me a 3 and say that you're fine. Like, you can say that you're fine, but expand on like why you're fine. I was reading through some of your responses from Tuesday of the easiest part of social distancing and the hardest part of social distancing. Which was some good insights, and I just kind of want to keep checking in with you guys about how you're doing. One of the things that the governor said that was the most important for this distance learning was keeping up with your social emotional health, because that's really going to be the thing that suffers the most through all of this. So please update me, tell me how you're doing. The agenda, what we're doing today, again, trying to keep things as normal as possible. We're going to talk a little bit about Challenger Deep, and really we're going to be focusing on Caden, how Caden has progressed through the novel, depending on where you are. Hopefully you're really close to being done, if not done already. All right, so let's move on. Okay, yeah, going back to what I was just talking about. How are you? Just to check in about me, I had a really horrible day yesterday, and I think it's because of all of the tech problems. I was so lucky that Monday I sailed through. I had very few tech problems. And then yesterday, I made up for it because it was a tough day nothing was working. And I was talking with one of the other teachers, and nothing was working on their end too. So at least we got to be miserable in company. Again, update me on how you are in that warm-up. I want to make sure you're doing okay. Hopefully you've had a good few days and you're kind of settling into this distance learning, which is definitely feels very different than our normal school. All right, let's move to the next slide. So just a reminder, your completed ARJ for Challenger Deep is due tomorrow. You can turn it in at any time before that, but obviously you should be done with the book by then. I've had a few questions about the entries not covering the designated section. So for example, like week 3's entries, like the entries don't follow the timeline. I'm not so fussed with that. It doesn't really matter to me where your entries are focused. I just want to make sure that they cover the entire book. So if you did a entry, like all of your entries, and it only covers the first third of the book, that's not what I'm looking for. But if the majority of, like, you have like a third of your entries that are in just kind of one section, that's okay. I'm looking for a variety here. I'm looking for your thinking throughout the entire novel. So if you didn't follow those strict guidelines, like this week's entries have to follow these chapter numbers, that doesn't bother me as much, but as long as all of your entries aren't just from one section of the book. All right, so if you have any questions about that, just put that on your exit ticket. So I'll have an exit ticket question, then right underneath that, you just put your questions, which I think that's exactly what my next slide says. Yeah, have a question, write on your weekly work form. You obviously can also post on a comment on the assignment or a private comment. I see both those. I'll respond either way. You can text me on Remind. You can give me a call. You can email me, all of those things. Email, I will say this, I'm a little bit slower on email just because I am absolutely bombarded with emails. I mean, yesterday I got like over 200 emails. So I may not be as quick to respond to you via email. I'll still get to you, obviously, but the quickest way to get a hold of me is through Remind. Just sending me a text on Remind. I've been really quick getting back to people on Remind. The other avenues are just a little bit slower, but I'll still get back to you. All right, so what we're doing today is I want to know what kind of person you think Caden is. When we first started the book, I mean, when we left, we had just gotten started. And the book takes a little bit getting into because of that kind of dual narrative of Caden's life on the ship and then his life at home with his family. And kind of as the book progresses, we see how those two worlds are kind of bleed into each other and what those different things on the ship might represent, like the parrot and the cocktails up in the crow's nest and the brains on the deck and all that stuff. So we didn't really have a good idea, get a good opportunity to check in about the type of person Caden was, because we were so kind of getting used to the world of the book. So I kind of want to get an update from you on what you think, what kind of person that you think he is. So in your activity practice section of the book, or excuse me, of your weekly work form for your Thursday section, you can just do 1 through 6, just number 1 through 6, and then I want you to answer these 6 questions. So number 1, what page are you on? Hopefully you're really close to the end. If you're done with the book, just say that, I'm done with the book. Number 2, what kind of character traits does Caden show throughout the book? Now, it could change, right? So he might show a character trait at the beginning that he doesn't show at the end, and vice versa. A character trait shows at the end that he didn't have at the beginning. So I want 5 different character traits that you feel that he demonstrates throughout the book. And when I say character traits, I mean stuff like bravery, loyalty, kindness, anger, like impatience with people. Those are the kinds of things when I mean by character trait. Then for number 3, I want you to choose one of those traits and then give me at least one action that proves that trait. So if you said that he was a happy-go-lucky guy, what action does he do in the book that proves that he's a happy-go-lucky guy? So you're giving a piece of evidence that proves one of those 5 character traits that you did for number 2. Number 4, how do his traits influence or have an effect on the people around him? So how does he affect all these people? And you can do the people within his fantasy Or you can do the people within his reality. I hate calling it a fantasy because that sounds like I'm diminishing what he was going through, which I'm not at all, but I can't really think of another term other than fantasy to use. When I say fantasy, I mean the world on the ship. So his ship world versus his real world, because it very much was real to him. So that's why I don't like calling it a fantasy. So how do those character traits that you've picked out for number 2, how do they have an effect or influence the people around him? Number 5, what character trait do you think is his best trait? And then explain why you think that. And then for number 6, what do you think his worst trait is? And explain that. Next week, I'm really trying to figure out how we're going to do all this. The way that I've designed Accelerated English is that it's a really discussion like heavy class, which I've had to reel back a lot. So I'm not 100% sure where we're going to go from here. I don't know if I'm just going to do like a test for this book or if I'm going to do a discussion. I mean, this book is just so rich with things to talk about. I just can't quite conceptualize a discussion, like how we would do a discussion other than doing it through a Google Meet or a Zoom. But I did a Google Meet on yesterday. I'm filming this on Wednesday, so I did it on Tuesday with my 6th period class, and I had 15 people in there. It was really hard. If your teachers have had successful Hangouts or Zoom meets or whatever, where people have all been together and you've all managed to kind of talk and there wasn't, it managed to go smoothly, let me know. Put it in your exit ticket or put a comment or send me a message and let me know what went well, or specifically like what teacher it was, so then I can reach out to them and kind of get ideas. So I really am trying to mine other teachers for ideas on how this all works, because this book is just so good and it really deserves a discussion around it. I've gotten wonderful feedback from many of you about the book, which that makes me so happy. This is the first time that I'm teaching this book, and I don't know if you remember, but I read this book I told you guys before we started this book, I read this book last summer, and as soon as I was done with it, my immediate thought was, I have to teach this book. This book is just too good to not put into your lives. And what's nice is I've heard a lot of great feedback that you guys agree with me. So I think that people would like to talk about this book. It's emotional, it makes you think about things. So yeah, if you have ideas on how we could do that or ways that your other teachers have done it successfully, please let me know. That's what I'm looking for. So this is the activity practice that we're doing today, are these 6 questions. It's more of a review and me getting an idea of where different people are in the book and everybody's different thoughts so that I can kind of compile it together, and we can come back next week in some form and kind of talk about your different thoughts on Caden as a character. All right, I think my next slide's my last slide. Yeah, so that's it for today. The exit ticket is pretty simple. So it's going to have 2 different things. First, what do you think your biggest challenge is going to be with online learning, and how can I help support you? So what I mean by that is, like, maybe you split your time between your parents and your mom has great internet, but your dad has terrible internet. So that would be a challenge. Or maybe it's that you have one device for 4 people in the house and getting time on the Chromebook is difficult, or that you do all your work at night and that's a time that you can't reach out to your teachers and ask. So I need to know how I can help you through this. I'm going to be, our Fridays are meant for check-ins of students that we feel need to get checked in on. That could be because they're not understanding an assignment, or it could be because they maybe aren't doing the work. So if you think that you're going to be a person who needs to get poked in the ribs a little bit to get your work done, then please let me know. You know, maybe you won't want to tell me that. But this is the way, this is our reality. And I've talked about in my first video that self-motivation is going to be a huge factor as we move through online learning. If self-motivation is a problem for you, please, I need to know. so that I can we can figure out a system together of touching base. And then the second thing that I want on your exit ticket is if I did need to talk to you, if I did need to contact you, what's the best way to get a hold of you? So is it through email? Is it on your phone? Is it through texting you? Is it on Remind? If you would prefer me to call you or text you, please provide your phone number so that I'll have access to that. And then your email, I'm going to assume it's your PH Billy's email unless you give me a different email address. And then any other questions that you have about anything that I've said in this video, please write them down. I'm compiling a big group of questions that I'll be answering at some time, so please keep them coming. I've had some really great ones. So yeah, if you think that anything, it could be a question that's individual to you, or it can be a question that you think is for the good of the group. Any questions at all, just put on your exit ticket. All right, let me get out of this share. All right, so that's all I have for you. I hope, like I said before, I hope you had a really great week. Thanks for your flexibility through this, and I hope that next week will be even smoother and that by May we're just kind of flying through this. But I'm thinking about all of you. If there's anything that you need from me, just please reach out, let me know. I am here to help you. That's why I'm here. All right, have a wonderful weekend. Be safe at home. I normally say make good choices, but like, where are you gonna go, right? So watch fun things, play fun games, reach out, talk to each other, and I will see you guys next week. Okay.